What do you get when you combine simplified practice marketing, proven ROI strategy, and Van skate shoes? You get Mark Thackeray, of course. So lace up, grab your green smoothie, and get ready, because this is Dental Marketing Secrets. And this is Mark.
All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast, where we provide actionable tips and tricks that you can take and apply immediately to grow your practice, to serve more patients, and ultimately leave a greater impact, because that is what it's all about, my friends. My name is Mark Thackeray, and as always, I am excited to be here with you today, even among these crazy circumstances that we find ourselves in with COVID-19, the economic shutdown that we are facing at this moment. And so we are going to talk about that today. I've been getting a lot of questions from doctors throughout the country on what the heck do I do in this situation with my doors closed. I'm not able to treat patients. A lot of fear and anxiety surrounding what's going to happen. And our goal, my goal has always been with this podcast, is to help practices increase their sense of direction, to increase their confidence and their capability in their businesses. Okay. And like I mentioned before, we are living through an unprecedented time right now with all that's going on. I mean, fear and uncertainty, concern, anxiety about the future, it is just running rampant. But what we need to remember is that we do not need to shut down and curl up at home and do nothing and wait this out. Okay. A lot of people have taken that approach, and that is the absolute worst thing you can do right now. I will state that again. You cannot allow yourself to sit by and really pray that this will blow over and that you will ultimately be able to open up your practice and patients will come back and everything will be back to normal. It is not going to, it's not going to change soon. We are not even in the thick of it yet. And so it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we're going to talk about that. I don't want to dwell too much on that, but I do, I just wanted to emphasize how important that is our mindset going into all of this. We're going to be talking about 10 different strategies that will help you focus on opportunities for growth, opportunities for progress, during this crazy time. Okay. These are designed to support your creative thinking, and all of your actions really designed to help you coordinate actions to help you navigate successfully these crazy, this whole pandemic, to help you get through these next few months and really position yourselves better for the future long term. Okay. So let's get right into it. Number one, forget about yourself and focus on others. So ask you this question, what do most people do during times of uncertainty? You can just look down your street probably for the answer to this question. If you look at your neighbors, you look at people that you know, the vast majority of people during this time, this crisis, have done what? They're quarantined, mandated to be, obviously the social distancing and to stay apart. But a lot of people have mentally quarantined themselves during this time. And that has resulted in them making them feel isolated and helpless, and really assuming this victim mentality. But the best strategy in this situation is to go the exact opposite way, to take it the exact opposite direction and expand your connection with others, and to really focus on helping them transform their negatives into positives. Okay, the more you contribute in this fashion, the less you'll need to worry about your own situation. And ultimately, you will become a source of confidence for everyone else. And that's what's so cool. This reminds me of years ago. Let's see, this would be about 9 years ago, this May. I signed up for an Ironman triathlon, and one of my friends coaxed me into it. I'd always wanted to do one, and he kind of strong-armed me into it, and I'm glad he did. Cody, I'll get you for that one. But it was a tremendous experience. But I wanted to share this point of the race, and for those of you who aren't as familiar with what an Ironman triathlon is, it's a series of 3 events that you do in succession, and you have to, for an Ironman, you have to complete this all within 17 hours. But it starts with a 2.4 mile open swim with everyone, and so you're literally swimming on top of people for the first mile at least, and then you transition into a 112-mile bike ride, and then after that you transition into a full marathon, 26.2 miles of running or walking or crawling, however you need to do that in order to get across the finish line in 17 hours. But for me, it was, I'm a swimmer. I played water polo in high school, so that came natural, and that was by far the best part. And I had a really good time during that portion of the event. And the bike, I managed to endure the bike and get to the run. I was so excited to get to the run because I wanted to get off the bike so badly. I made it through halfway on the run. So I did a half marathon. I went 13 miles, and I was transitioning, and I started to get back on the course. I was putting on new socks and sunscreen and that sort of thing, changed shirt, I believe. And I just started cramping up. I got hit with 2 cramps, one in my calf and one in my groin on the same leg. And I just had to stop. I just had to walk, I didn't want to stop. So I just had to walk and limp my way for a little while. And as I did that, I fell in line with another athlete, and we were just talking. He was from California. He'd done a number of Ironmans in the past. We were talking about this crazy heat. It was, low to mid 90s at that time. So just crazy hot. And I was totally unprepared for the heat. And so we'd walk and talk and stop at the aid stations and drink as much as we could. And as a result, eventually I started to loosen up. But what really got me to get going again and to get jogging again was he made this comment that we still had several miles to go. We probably had 8 miles left, and so we'd been walking for at least 4 or 5 miles. And he said, by this rate, we'll cross the finish line in 2 hours. And something inside me just exploded. I said, no way am I going to wait 2 hours to finish this stinking race. I'm going to get moving. And again, I'd loosened up enough to the point where I physically felt like I could. I was still in a ton of pain and just so fatigued and exhausted that I still had my doubts, but I started to very slowly start to jog. And as I did so, I had this thought occur in my mind. It said, why don't you, for every person that's coming the opposite direction, and the run on this course was you'd go out to a certain point and come back. And so you'd see a lot of people going out or coming back. And so he said, this thought was, for every person, give them a high five and tell them good job. And so as I started to do that, first couple of people, great job, you're doing awesome, high five. And all of a sudden I noticed that my focus went from worrying about the pain I was feeling, worrying about myself, to these other people and looking at their reactions. And before I knew it, I was running faster and faster, and I had more energy, and all because I'd shifted my focus to other people instead of really zeroing in on how crappy I was feeling, to be totally honest. And by the end of the race, I felt really, really good, comparatively speaking, and was able to finish really strong. But that's the power of focusing on other people, is it allows you to gain perspective, but also derive so much energy and fulfillment from helping other people. Number 2, forget about your services and focus instead on your relationships. In uncertain times like these, people often become frightened about the viability of their services. Okay, they're not able to treat patients right now. Their doors are closed. How am I supposed to see people if I can't, how am I supposed to stay alive without being able to see my patients in person, right? But a much more strategic response is to disregard your services for a minute and focus on deepening the power of those relationships. Okay. And those relationships could be with family, they could be with friends, they could be with team members for sure, suppliers, patients, of course, and even prospective patients and the community at large. Okay. Look for ways to deepen that relationship, because every time that you strengthen a relationship, the viability of your services will increase. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Every time that you strengthen a relationship, the viability of your services will increase. Okay, and this actually reminds me of a lesson I learned years ago. I was serving a 2-year service mission for my church, And the head guy, or what we called the mission president, he shared this with me, and it just was so powerful. He said, the relationship is always more important than the issue. And this has been very helpful to me as a parent. My wife and I have talked about this on a number of occasions when we're so frustrated that our one of our girls didn't act like we wanted her to act, but we had to rein ourselves in and remind ourselves that what's really important is the relationship, because that is what endures. The problem is temporary, okay, and so it's important to remember that. So if your son or daughter gets their license and is in a huge wreck, you don't come back when you don't blow up and go into a tirade on how they wrecked the car. You focus on the relationship and make sure that they know how important it is to you that they are okay. And that the car, while it might have been a nice, beautiful, expensive dream car with a tear in your eye, you can let them know that it does not mean everything. It's just an object in the end. And it pales in comparison to your relationship with them. So that's number 2. Forget about your services. Focus on your relationships. Number 3, forget about converting treatment for a second and focus on creating value. Okay? Most people don't like being sold to at the best of times. When the economy's booming, they don't like to be sold to. But when there are times like this of uncertainty and angst and anxiety, oftentimes when you try to sell to them, they will turn you off, they'll hang up, or they'll slam the door shut in your face. They can get violent at times. But what people are really searching for, especially during times like this, is value creation. And what I mean by that is they're searching for solutions that will help them eliminate dangers, that will help them capture opportunities, and help them to ultimately reinforce their strengths. And when you focus on those 3 solutions, the eliminating dangers, capturing opportunities, and reinforcing strengths, then ultimately your case acceptance will naturally follow. And that may not come immediately right off the bat, but it will follow as you continue to add value to that relationship over time. Because that's what's most important, is the relationship trumps the issues, okay? Patience, and a quick example of this, really, in this time frame, if you're not seeing patients on an emergency or urgent care need basis, then what you think a quick example could be showing them what they could be doing to address non-essential needs. So it could be a quick video to send them to say, hey, we've been getting a number of questions from my patients. I wanted to show you one way to take care of this right now, since we're not open for patients, we're not able to see or treat non-essential needs. Here's what you can do. And then outline steps for them to take care of it on their own as best as they can. Another thing could be, an easy one could be just doing a live webinar, a Q&A session to help field questions. And that could be tremendously valuable to your patients and help to focus on creating value and improving those relationships. Very easy, doesn't take a whole lot of time. You can send an email to all your patients, set that up. It could be a Facebook Live, it could be on a Zoom conference call, any number of ways to do that. But that could be a very powerful way to focus instead on those solutions for patients. You could do something similar too for your team members, as a matter of fact, and probably should be. Number 4, forget about your losses and focus instead on your opportunities. There's a great quote that talks about that which we focus on, we create more of. Okay. Unfortunately, for some people, they allow themselves to focus on those situations that did not go quite as well. Okay. Some people they never really get over this, where they keep replaying their old games, and this happens so much in sports, where you allow yourself to continually replay and replay over and over again that game where you came up short, where you did not play very well. Or it could be in business where I just didn't show up. I missed that opportunity, and it stings. It still stings to this day. And I keep reopening that wound. But the better strategy is to shift your mindset and open up what I call an entirely new game. Okay. And what I mean by that is to make it more of a game where you're looking at new ideas. You're looking at to locate and identify new energies, new tools, new resources for you to change your situation, okay? To generate more opportunities for you and your business. As the world changes, opportunities suddenly become available, and we see that right now. There are so many opportunities to develop, let's say, and I've been on calls with a number of dentists, a number of doctors throughout the United States, as well as some other clients, and just it's exciting to see, hey, this is a tremendous opportunity to build up teledental or to help virtually to establish a service that you can deliver virtually, whereas before most people just didn't have the time. They didn't feel the need to do that. Now that's becoming a tremendous need, and could ultimately become one dentist he's not going back. He is not going back to traditional dentistry as we know it, where people come into his office. He is solely focused from here on out on teledental and consulting virtually and treating patients virtually that way. Very interesting. But again, it all comes from focusing on opportunities, having that opportunity mindset instead of focusing on your past failures or losses. Number 5, forget about your difficulties. Focus on your progress. Slight change from the last one. Focus on the progress that you are making. Do not focus on those obstacles that are in your way. Okay, things are not as easy as they once were. In this situation where we're really forced to hunker down and we don't have access to people and resources and technology, certain technologies as we did before, but understanding that we have the decision, okay? It's up to us to allow ourselves to either be defeated by these new difficulties or to help us uncover new strengths. And that's what's so cool about this. Your body's muscles always get stronger from working against resistance. And the same holds true for the muscles of your mind, the muscles of your spirit, the muscles of your character. The more it goes up against resistance or challenge, the stronger it becomes. So treat this whole period of challenge as a time when you can make your greatest progress as a human being. That's so cool. And another way I love to look at this is to think of this as part of the quote drama unquote of your life. Okay. All incredible stories have drama built into them. Some have tremendous amounts of drama. That's what makes the story so compelling is the hero's rise to overcome that drama and ultimately become the hero that we've come to, that we know and love. And that is exactly what's happening right now for a lot of us. This is your life's drama as part of your story to help you to really help you uncover who you can be and who you ought to be, quite frankly. Very cool. Number 6, forget about the future and then focus instead on today. The future is an abstraction. It does not exist really except as an idea. The only future that has any reality is the one that you continually create for yourself through what you do every single day. Okay, your contributions, your achievements, the results you generate. That is the future that is the reality of your future. It's what you do on a daily basis. It's important to remember to ignore all those experts out there who never saw the present circumstances coming, who all they do is focus on the negative and why what we're doing to combat this isn't enough and how it's just going to get worse and all of the trash talk, really. I mean, the negative trash talk that's going out there, it will bring you down. Again, that which we focus on, we create more of. If you allow yourself to get sucked into that world, you are going to create more negativity. And all you're going to do is you are not going to make the progress that you want to make. Let me just put it that way. But what's cool is if you shift that and you focus on what you can do over the course of the next 24 hours, your whole future will be up to you. You'll be the only expert that you'll ever need on the future. And that's what's so cool. You will be the captain of your ship to determine exactly where you're going to sail off to. Very powerful. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, but my daughter Ruby has stage 4 cancer, and I get a lot of parents that will come up to me or my wife Allie and ask, how in the world do you do this every single day? How do you get through this? And our answer is quite simple, and I don't really think it's the answer they're hoping for. I think most people want want us to say, well, reality is we drink this thing every day and it's a magic potion or pill. But the reality is that it is, you do what you have to do every single day. And as a parent, there's really no other option if you truly care for your kids. You do what you have to do day in and day out. And that's all you focus on. You don't focus on what could happen that's out of your control. Yes, you're aware of that and you try to prepare yourself for that, but you focus your efforts on what you can do that day. And the same applies to this day and age, to this situation, to these crazy times, is focusing on on your efforts, everything that you can accomplish in the next 24 hours. Number 7, forget about who you were, focus on who you can be. Many people allow themselves to be defined by external circumstances. Okay, and when these abruptly change or unexpectedly change, they don't know who they are. So they keep reverting back to who they used to be. Okay, because it's comfortable. People naturally resort to a state of comfort when things are changing, during times of change. From now on, my recommendation is to take your cues from yourself, from inside of you, from your dreams, your ideals, your values, your operating guiding principles. These are things that should never change regardless of your circumstances. And if you have not taken the time to define and identify what those guiding principles are, those values, you need to do that. Those, like I said, are things that will be constant throughout your entire life, that will not change no matter the circumstance. That's what's cool about those, is they can provide direction in times of confusion or uncertainty, if you've taken the time to define what those are. So take advantage of the external confusion that's going on right now to become self-directed, to be a self-motivated person, a self-managed person and leader. Okay. Number 8, forget about events. Focus on your responses. Okay, on your response to events. When things are going well, many people think and feel that they're actually in control of events. And I giggle a little bit because I have felt that way so many times. And that's why we tend to feel so defeated and so depressed when things turn bad, is that we feel like that's a reflection of our capability. Like, oh, I totally dropped the ball, or I can't do this, or whatever the response may be. That's the tendency for us when things turn south. We tend to think that we have lost the fundamental ability to do this. But if you look at those people who are some of the most successful people that are consistently successful in the world, they know that they cannot control events. Okay, but they continually work toward greater control over their responses to events. Anytime that there is fear, anytime that there is discomfort or uncertainty, it's an excellent time. It really is an opportunity for you to focus on being creatively responsive to those events. Okay, is to understand, is to identify ways to respond differently, to provide value, to enrich the relationship of people that you care about most during troubling times. This really is a tremendous opportunity to reinforce those relationships, to reinforce your position as a leader. There's so many people that aren't not doing anything. And again, I've talked to so many doctors throughout the nation that are so afraid. They allow themselves to become paralyzed by fear. They're literally not doing anything because they're so scared about the future. Contrast that with someone who instead is doing all they can to connect and stay connected to their patients, to their team members, to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. Here's a positive thought for the day, or remember this awesome experience that we had where we helped this patient, or here are some things that you can do at home to treat this particular, need, for your teeth. Whatever the case may be, those people, those ones that are taking the initiative, those ones that are actively in control of their responses to these crazy events are going to be successful. Plain and simple, they will be successful. Okay. So that is something you absolutely need to remind yourself. You need to write down and highlight and circle and underline 3 times. Don't forget that one. Number 9, forget about what's missing and focus instead on what's available. Okay, when things change for the worse, many desirable resources go missing. Okay, and those could be information, that could be knowledge or tools or personnel or systems. And these deficiencies often lead to paralysis. Like I talked about before, a lot of people, when they're missing certain tools or things that they were accustomed to beforehand, will just stop and get stuck. They'll say, well, I can't do this. I don't have access to this, or I can't see patients in real life, so I can't do this anymore. They just stop. They don't do anything. They don't take any type of action beyond that. However, those that are more strategic will take advantage of every resource available to them. Okay, so they'll take the time to identify and list out what resources do I still have currently available to me? What assets do I have that I can deploy to make as much progress as possible over the next 24 hours? Work with those resources, work with the opportunities at hand, and your confidence will continue to grow. And what's so cool is that this will, it's infectious, you guys. People will take notice of this and they will flock to you. They will be attracted to you. It's like a magnet that just pulls because you want to be someone who brings people up and who has that sense of confidence and capability and direction, because people need that. They desperately need it right now. Number 10, forget about your complaints. Focus instead on your gratitude. I'm just going to take a quick drink. When times get tough, everyone has to make a fundamental decision to either complain and to be the victim, or to be grateful and see opportunity. Okay. In an environment where negative sentiment is rampant, you turn on the news, that's all they talk about. You turn on the radio, that's all they talk about. You look on social media, that's all that gets talked about is these negative repercussions, the amount of cases that have been confirmed, the death toll, the devastating impacts on our economy, the stock market and how poorly it's been, all these things. And that has a very draining effect on the psyche, on your mentality, if you continue to indulge and listen to those types of reports day in and day out. Complaining only attracts negative thoughts and negative people. Gratitude, on the other hand, creates the opportunity for the best thinking, for breakthroughs to happen, literally for industries to be disrupted, all because of gratitude and opening yourself up to possibility. Compare to you, we've all come across these people. If you come across the person who is the constant whiner, who's just an immature baby, because all they do is see the fault in everything. Nothing's good enough. They're the consummate victim in every situation. But you compare that and contrast that with someone who, on the other hand, is able to recognize what is going well in every situation. Doesn't matter what they might be living through. They can identify what they can be grateful for, things that they have. Those people they open themselves up to receive so much more because they're already grateful for what they have. It elevates their vibration so that they can see opportunities. And it's so cool because those people have, because of that gratitude, of having a grateful mindset, their capabilities skyrocket. I mean, their ability to dive into something new or an unknown situation, it allows them to navigate that so much more successfully because they open themselves up to receiving so much more from the universe, from heaven, however you want to describe that. But that is the reality. They now have the ability to receive direction from a variety of sources. And again, it's another thing about that is kind of going back to what we talked about when you're focusing on what's available and focusing on providing value and focusing on the relationship. People need this. They need a leader like this. They need to see someone who is grateful for what they have, who shows appreciation for all the blessings that abound in this life, People need that every single day. And if you can become that, again, you will be a leader and position yourselves as someone who is concerned about those around them, and more than, and not just concerned, but is someone who appreciates the gift of life every single day. I'll just leave it that way. But that is it, you guys. I know there's a lot packed into that. It's quite a list for you to go back. That's my recommendation, really, is to go back and re-listen to this podcast, this episode, and write down any ideas that come to mind of things that you can do to take action on right now. And then go back through that list that you compiled and identify which ones can be implemented as quickly as possible. Which ones are the easiest to implement, and get started on those. Okay. Once again, this is all about focusing on what you can control during this unprecedented time, and zeroing in on the opportunities for growth, for personal progress and achievement during this time. So stay safe, my friends. That's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us today on the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast. Always love to hear from you, so please reach out if you have any comments or feedback. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave me a review. That would be tremendous. And until next time, my friends, like I mentioned before, stay safe above all, but stay positive, focus on the opportunities, focus on providing value, and we will talk to you next time.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast? Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And for more proven marketing strategies to grow your practice, visit practicerocket.net.